The IB will take your soul. That is what some seniors told Jerry when he finished the MYP. Rather than preparing over the summer, he constantly stayed on edge, spending his waking hours worrying, getting little to no sleep, and procrastinating through video games. He accepts that this is the standard since all of his friends and classmates spent their time stressed because that's what everyone was told. By mid-IA season, he was willing to sell his soul to just stop being so tired, get a perfect score, and hopefully make it through the never-ending pain that is the IB. Beer knew what he was getting into the moment he decided to take the IB. He decides to take the initiative so he wouldn't fall short of balancing school and his personal life. Though classes are a lot, he manages to get by becoming productive. He studies when he should study, does his papers when he needs to, and enjoys every weekend with his friends and family. By strictly disciplining himself over the course of 2 years, he managed to get a perfect 45 with relative ease. Hello everybody, my name is Joaquin Revello. I'm a current UPenn Wharton dual degree engineering student, and I got a perfect 45 in the IB in the exam route in May 2021. I took the MYP during my middle school years, and by the time I got to the IB diploma, I was somewhat skeptical as to what the entire DP thing was. And I was even more skeptical at the beginning, given that I wasn't doing very good, or I didn't do very well during the M1. And before I took the IP, our school made us take what is known as the Chem exam, which would actually predict what IB score you would get. And I was predicted roughly a 33 to a 36, so 5s and 6s in the IB DP, which means two things. First of all, I didn't have a natural genetic advantage going into the IB. And number two, I had to figure out a set of strategies, a set of high performance ideals per se, that allowed me to get that high desired 45 mark. So stick until the end for the action points, which the last of which will actually surprise you as I go through a few, notably 5, of my expectations versus reality of the IB. So going into that, I expected the IB to be extraordinarily difficult. So I overcame that through a few action points that I'm going to reveal at the end of this video. So stick until the end for that. And I'm also going to be dropping some Easter eggs throughout this video, which are essentially infographics and training sessions you can find on my website, and that'll be listed here. You type in the code and you get access to those. So with that being said, there's a few things to note. The first of which is that there's a lot of BS going around Reddit, going around the entire IB consensus as to how you need to treat yourself during the IB. Most people, they get no sleep, they have poor mental health, they go around with these terrible study strategies. And while this is definitely possible way to get a 45 in the IB. In fact, I know a few people who got a 45 by studying as much as possible, losing sleep, stressing themselves out. While this is possible, it is not the only way. Now, when something is challenging, there typically is a larger payout at the end. In fact, as Theodore Roosevelt said, nothing in the world is worth having unless it means pain, effort, and difficulty. And this is also why I felt like not only I benefited from the IB, but I thrived in it. I viewed it as an opportunity for me to improve my discipline, for me to improve a lot of those important study skills and really just a lot of those life skills that are necessary to achieve success, not only in high school, but in university and beyond. And one of my favorite concepts of Stoicism is the fact that the obstacle becomes the way. The fact that there is a challenge in front of you, the fact that there's something to stop you from moving forward, means that by you going in that direction, you're intentionally going towards something that will help you grow. This is also why I carry around my copy of the Meditations. This is the translation, the modern translation by Gregory Hayes. I found this one easier to read and much more applicable. So here are now my 5 expectations versus reality of the IB. And by the way, you just found an Easter egg. It's my extended essay. You can read my entire grade A physics extended essay on rocket propulsion. You can do that by typing in the code extended essay, just one word, extended essay, no capitals, no space, no nothing. Type in extended essay into the link in the description at grizzlyleague.com/Easter egg, and you can get my entire extended essay for free to read. And you can also get my commentary for free on YouTube. All right, so there's a 3-step process that I developed that allowed me to get straight 7s in every single subject. The subject that this worked the best for was mathematics, right? And it was this simple 3-step process. Number 1, I would pre-study the material for probably 15 minutes beforehand. And this was typically done the day before I had the lesson. And that basically just consisted of me searching up what we were gonna learn, looking at the syllabus, searching that up on YouTube, and then just watching 1 or 2 videos. That's all I did pre-study. Number 2 was I actually paid attention in class. Okay, this is a big thing that most people don't do. They don't pay attention in class. They're either on their phone, they're wasting their time, they're looking at the ceiling, whatever the case may be, they're not paying attention in class. And then number 3 is to consistently review and practice the material. All right, I did this with math by doing as many past paper questions as I possibly could. And you can find these somewhere circulating online, or just simply ask your teacher, and then just do as many of them as you possibly can. When you run out of past paper questions, you can literally just search up questions online, or maybe even start to make your own questions. But the fact is, by doing active recall, which is consistently actively recalling information by doing questions, that's what allows you to really strengthen whatever content you learned through the pre-studying and the in-class exercises. And this is in fact Jerry's problem. He sets himself up for failure because he does not plan ahead. Bjorn, on the other hand, has a strategy. He has a battle plan prepared. He knew that the challenges were coming. He knew that the IB was going to be challenged and had been prepared and was ready to take it on. This is also why I love pre-study, because it frames you into that mindset of trying to attack the thing rather than trying to defend it. In fact, there's a very different psychological response towards attacking the thing you're trying to learn rather than having it creep up to you at the last minute and surprise attack. The different mindset is one of offense versus defense, and it's much more effective to take the offense first. So the second expectation is that you get 0 sleep. All right, I always see these memes, especially on Reddit, where they're saying that you get 0 sleep. There's a bunch just everywhere on people not getting sleep. Again, it is an option. I'm not saying that's not an option. You can get 0 sleep and possibly get a 45, but it's not the most effective way. So this is the reality. I managed to get a solid 8.5 hours of sleep every single day. And one of the reasons why I did this was because I knew how essential sleep was, not only for memory retention, because when you sleep, you reinforce a lot of the area of your brain that is known for long-term memory retention, but it's also the fact that sleep is absolutely essential for life, right? I remember they did a study a while back where they got a bunch of rats and they deprived the rats of food for 3 weeks. The rats were hungry but alive. Then they deprived the rats of sleep for 3 weeks, and by the end of those 3 weeks, the rats were absolutely dead. So understand that sleep is absolutely essential for you to be alive, for you to function as a proper human being, and to also learn. And I've also found that the minute that sleep gets thrown out the window is the exact same minute that absolutely everything in your life starts to go in the trash. So you probably already know that you need to get enough sleep, but how do you do it, all right? These are some quick strategies on how I did it. Number 1 is I set a bedtime alarm. I would set an alarm at around 9:30 to 10, typically 9:30, to go to bed. Number 2 is I had a consistent sleep schedule. Consistently go to bed at the same time. And with that being said, it's actually better to consistently go to bed at the same time than it is to consistently wake up at the same time. And also remember that the sun is actually one of the most important timekeepers of our body. If you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, our body was designed, evolutionarily speaking, to get used to the sun, get used to the rhythms of planet Earth. And the sun is actually the most consistent way to do that. So stay consistent and go to bed when the sun goes down and then wake up when the sun goes up, because that's how we've evolved. Next, there's actually a few things you can do in the actual area in which you sleep to improve the quality. For example, make your room actually dark, remove all forms of lights, glow in the dark moons, whatever, just remove all of them. Number 2 is to decrease the temperature of the room, roughly like 18, I believe 16 to 18 degrees is the ideal. And then number 3, sleep with a blanket, which actually helps a lot. So the reason why I'm saying all of this is because it's absolutely key for you to optimize your energy. And if we bring Jerry back into the story, we see how he got very little done because he had basically no energy compared to Bjorn, who had quite enough energy to do basically anything he needed. And it wasn't time that he lacked, it was energy. Because think of it this way, we all have the same 2 years to do the IBDP program. So you really can't complain that you didn't have enough time, because every single IB student has the exact same 2-year time. What you probably didn't have though was proper energy and proper priorities. So if you ever catch yourself saying you don't have enough time to do this or you don't have enough time to do that, remember that problem can actually be traced to having poor energy or poor priorities. And you actually found an Easter egg called Grizzly Attack. So type in the word Grizzly Attack with a capital G and a capital A, type that into grizzly.com/Easter egg, and you get a pretty special prize. All right, the next expectation is that you have absolutely no social life. Here's the reality. During the IB, I would spend all of my Sundays skiing with my family. You need to actually understand that rest and recovery are essential for performance. If you look at any athlete, you notice that the majority of their gains comes from the period of time that they spend resting after they did the work. You can similarly think of it in your own studies, where the majority of your long-term memory gains comes from the sleep and the rest and recovery you do after you spend all that time learning. So this is what I suggest. You plan out your days in 40-minute intervals where you sit down, you do 40 minutes of work nonstop, and then you take a break. And then you go back, you take 40 minutes of work, and then you take a break. That back and forth, that sprint and recovery allows you to not only reach those states of flow, but also do so while balancing out that necessary recovery. And also understand that this idea of recovery is basically prominent in all high achievers. Just look at Bill Gates, who spent an entire week or 2 weeks of his entire year just reading books. Or Schnorstinger, who likely discovered his famous equation while climbing a mountain in Austria. So apart from the fact that I would spend my entire Sunday and Saturday evening skiing and enjoying time with my friends and family, it was actually leading up to the IB exams where I had the most amount of time. I had actually more of a social life near the ending of the exams for a few reasons. The first of which is I had no university admissions to complete, and also the fact that I had pre-studied and consistently studied studied throughout the entire 2-year program, and I had so strongly built up the fundamentals that I needed to master the IB that it was basically seamless. Which leads me to my next expectation, where you don't have time for extra co-curriculars. All right, this is just absolutely not true because I had enough time to build up my businesses, do the university application that I was doing, and also do the entire YouTube World Scholars Cup activities during that time as well. Plus, one of the main reasons why you're doing the IB is to get into a top university. So in order for you to get into a top university, you need to have a good set of extracurriculars. And if we look at Bjorn actually had the majority of his university application list done before he did the IB. He spent the majority of his free time working on that list of extracurriculars throughout the IB. And with the proper productivity skills, he allocated the time after class to work on them. And again, with all of these correct strategies, disproportionate leverage, productivity, states of flow, removing distraction, I could just keep going on. You're able to get significantly more done and have time to ultimately finish those extracurriculars. One of those strategies you can find right here because you just got another Easter egg. Type in Grizzly Roar 28 with a capital G and a capital R, all one word, Grizzly Roar 28. You can type that into the link down below at grizzly.com/Easter egg. Go check it out. One of the finals expectations that I had was that the IB would significantly improve my chances of college admissions. Now, from my experience, I found that UK schools tend to prefer the IB compared to the US schools. So again, it really depends on what your objectives are, what university you want to go into, and then as I tell my students, what type of ideal lifestyle you want to live after that. I mean, for me, it definitely helped because the IB itself is rather rigorous compared to other programs. So it just shows the university that you have the ability to stay disciplined, to stay consistent, and to ultimately get that high score. Plus, there aren't that many people who get a 45. I believe it's like 0.3%, something like that. So if you're able to achieve that out of everyone else, it's pretty extraordinary. And then compare that to the AP program where it's not that hard to get a level 5. And it's also not that long, right? The IB program itself is 2 years long, but compare that to the AP program, which is at most 1 year long, it's a pretty relative. The extra length really shows your commitment towards that. But if you're asking whether or not the IB will actually guarantee admissions, well, it can't because there's nothing you can do to guarantee admissions into a specific university. But again, it definitely helps because it shows you that commitment. So action points overall for this video. Number 1, develop a flow habit, which is when you sit down, get straight down to work, remove anything that can pull your attention away and reach states of flow. Number 2 is to change your sleep and energy habits. Get 8.5 hours of sleep every single day, and to do so, change up your sleep environment. And then number 3 is to simply control your attention when you avoid any form of multitasking at all, which actually includes music. So no music, no anything that can pull you out, no trying to do 2 assignments at once, none of that. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video on expectations versus reality for the IB. If you found this helpful at all, please let me know down below or shoot me an email at joaquinr@warden.upenn.edu. Have a good rest of your day, and until next time, stay grizzly. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.